All right, welcome back. We're talking Steelers defense, which in Buffalo was great. They were healthy. Guys were getting after it. They had a lot of hits, and they kind of rattled, I thought, Josh Allen in that game. Ever since, and it started last week, they started losing guys to groin injuries, knee injuries, whatever, and now all of a sudden they're down to just some depth, and the depth's not putting enough pressure on the quarterback. So, Chris Adamski, start with you on this one. When you look at it, why did they do more in terms of exotic blitzing or something different to confuse? It's still a young quarterback. He hasn't played a full season worth of games, but they let Joe Burrow pretty much pick him apart after that interception by Edmonds.
I know a lot of people are going to focus on the lack of sack, and the sack streak ended this week, and it coincides with T.J. Watt not being there. Burrow only had 18 dropbacks. The Bengals didn't have to throw. I think that's a little more concerning maybe is that fact that they didn't even get to the point where they really had to rattle him too much. He made a couple plays. They did rattle him early on. The pressure did cause that interception. But you talking about Paul with the identity of the offense, right now, even the defense was really good, and I think it has a lot of talent, and the injuries is certainly a part of it. But right now, the identity of the defense, they're sort of like still kind of feeling out. They never really solved this nickel situation. Another thing in the offseason was on the to-do list, and Mike Hilton was in town, of course, today with the Bengals, and they never really addressed that. They tried the Trey Norwood blitz last week with disastrous results. So having Mike Hilton here was sort of a stark reminder about that, and the guys around the secondary and trying to figure it out. Listen, there's been a lot of injuries in the defense. I'm still not overall worried if these guys all get back and are 100%. But it's also it's similar where they don't have answers to some of these positions that they with guys down, the depth maybe to make up for the attrition they have right now.
Well, I said at the start of this thing in training camp and everything else that they didn't have enough guys in their secondary. I said that, and I still believe it. They don't. You guys get hurt, and frankly, you had Joe Hayden, who is the one guy you could trust. You kind of thought Cam Sutton was maybe a guy you could trust as a slot guy. But other than that, you didn't have a whole lot of proven guys. You needed to go out and get some help. So it's not surprising that one or two injuries there, and you're really in bad shape there. Now, that being said, all of this will solve itself in some ways if they get Highsmith and Watt back, because obviously Watt is a guy who changes the game completely. When he's in, it's a completely different dynamic. Offenses have to really figure out where he's at, what they're doing, how they're going to block him. So, I mean, I think unlike the offense, which I don't know that there are many answers for the offense because I think the offensive line stinks and it doesn't matter who you put in there. I think the defense, if you get Watt and you get Highsmith back, you know what? I think they'll be fine. Watt will put enough pressure on quarterbacks and teams will have to account for him. That will basically cover some of the sins in the back. And that's what you're looking for. So without him, they're very ordinary as a defense. That's one of the things that you really have found out these last 2 weeks.
Yeah, but they should be better than that, Paul. I mean, they got Minkah Fitzpatrick back there. He wants to be one of the highest paid safeties after this season. He was nowhere to be found. You saw him missing plays today. He's got to be a difference maker when Watt's out of the lineup. He was not. That's a big mark against him, is a guy that claims to be an elite player on defense. Devin Bush, you trade up to 10 to get the guy. You know, I have Steelers fans that tell me all the time, you can't trade up to get a quarterback in the draft, yet this team traded up to get a guy at number 10. He made 0 plays today, no substantial plays. And lastly, James Pierre, you know, all I hear about in training camp and preseason, what a great revelation this guy is, diamond in the rough. So be it. But you can't trust him enough to be one-on-one with Jamar Chase at the end of the first half. That was a mistake by the coaching staff to allow for a guy that was the best wide receiver coming out of college to be one-on-one against a guy who I guess his claim to fame is he's Lamar Jackson's cousin.
Yeah, I think so. You know, sometimes you get carried away with those guys in the preseason, even Jameer Jones. You know, it's the next level. When you're going in there real games, things change. All right, I want to talk about the NFL at large now. We've seen some interesting developments. Kansas City's 1-2. Nobody saw that coming after 3 games. You got the Bengals, the Browns, the Ravens, who squeaked out a win on a 66-yard field goal. So, Paul Zeise, your takeaway after 3 weeks of the NFL season. What are your biggest surprises and disappointments?
Well, I've said a bunch of times that really the NFL season doesn't start till after week 4. I think teams have to figure out, you know, in free agency and everything else, they've got to figure out who they are, and what they're capable of. I mean, the Chiefs are 1-2. They could easily be 3-0. Last week they fumbled away and made a couple of mistakes that they don't usually make. Today, kind of similar. Early in the game, they had some really uncharacteristic mistakes. I wouldn't worry too much about the Chiefs. They're probably going to finish something like, I would say, 13-4. They'll be fine. Tampa lost today. They lost at the Rams, who might be the other team. That's one of the best teams in football, and they were on the road, and they didn't have Antonio Brown. So, again, I think people go way too crazy early in the season trying to read into some of these results. The one thing I will say is the Ravens, with all of their injuries and all of the guys they're missing, they are going to find a way to get to the playoffs. Mark my words, today was an ugly game. They didn't play very well. They played a bad team, but they really should have lost the game, and they found a way to win, and that's just sort of what they do.
You look at the AFC, there's only 2 undefeated teams left after 3 weeks. So really, the Steelers are within a game of everybody. Now, we can sit here and say, does that matter or not if they don't fix some of the issues they have? That's a whole other discussion. But people were sitting in these chairs 2 weeks ago saying the Steelers are Super Bowl contenders. They won a game at Buffalo. Who knows? It's the NFL. Every year we say this. We think we got to figure it out. We don't got to figure it out. The Steelers do have Denver. Obviously, they have the games against Baltimore and Cleveland. So on paper, right now, being in last place doesn't mean anything from a Steelers perspective. However, in practice, I don't know necessarily what. Again, some of these things aren't fixable like we talked about, or at least going to be very, very difficult to fix. But again, we were saying 2 weeks ago they're Super Bowl contenders. So who knows? He will be on the road next week.
But Chris, have we said at any point in the last, I don't know, tell me the last time we sat here and said Roethlisberger looked good. I mean, he had an incredible second half against the Colts last year to get him help him get into the playoffs. He put up huge stats against the Browns, but they were empty stats. They were getting blown out. He was terrible in the first quarter. And in the Bills game, he made 4 or 5 throws. I mean, I don't think it's too early at all to panic about the quarterback. You guys might think I'm wrong. Paul, you wanted Aaron Rodgers benched after 1 week, so I know he'll hit that panic button. The guy looks like garbage at 39 years old. Anybody want to disagree with me on that?
Well, I think the one thing I wrote after the Bills game, I wrote actually that they were probably a lot more resourceful and lucky than actually good in that game. And I know I got a bunch of emails and tweets and everybody else telling me I'm a hater and this and that and the other thing. I just don't see it that way. I mean, I felt like in that game, if Josh Allen was just good, he was actually bad in that game. If he was just average, maybe a little above average, they lose that game. He hits 3 or 4 throws that change the game, and we're talking about an 0-3 team. So to me, the thing about Ben is I can't really judge him completely until I see him actually have some time back there to do what he needs to do. Now, he's getting the ball out of his hands quickly, and they're throwing these ridiculous 1 or 2 yard passes. But I just don't know that I see a guy who's completely done. Is he what he was 5 or 6 years ago? No, obviously he isn't. And the Rodgers thing was more about his demeanor and the fact that he didn't want to be there anymore than anything else. But in terms of Ben, I just kind of feel like Ben is a guy, he's still got something left in the tank. I just don't know what it is.
We got to go to a break. When we come back, we're going to ask you this question now. Would you rather see Pitt beat up on New Hampshire by 70 and feel good about that, or West Virginia lose a hard-fought game to a number 4 ranked team? That's next right here on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown.